Hi friends, you are now tuned in to the Kid Astronaut Podcast. Turn your speakers up.
So you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's up? This is Kid Astronaut. This is a very special podcast version. We're doing the quarantine at home version of the podcast today. My guest today is Whitney Anderson. She is an artist. Where are you from originally?
Oh, that is a tough question. I like to boast that I'm from the 3 states that first legalized weed.
Okay.
But yeah, I was born in Alaska, and then I grew up in Washington, Colorado, and Alaska. I spent a third of each of my life in both states.
Cool.
Or all 3 states.
All 3, yeah.
But right now I'm in Seattle.
Okay. And you are an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Do you call yourself an artist because your medium is I don't know, you do like collages, like you have a piece of yours behind you right now. How do you describe yourself?
Should I get up close? You want to see what it's about?
Yeah.
So these are all, you can see the kitty. These are all made out of recycled magazines.
Very cool.
Couple thousand probably in that one. But yeah, I call myself a multidisciplinary artist, not a multimedia artist. The difference is multidisciplinary is like you're a purist. Like, this is pure collage. A lot of people think, oh, it looks so detailed and real. It looks like a painting. Do you paint now? I'm like, no, it's pure collage. I also paint, which is when I started out doing that before collage when I was 15 years old. And so I've been a painter for like 18 years. And then I took up collage just like 5 years ago. And then, of course, every fine artist has the fundamentals of drawing. And I've been drawing since I was 3 years old. So those 3 things make up my art enterprise.
Yeah.
And each one is special. I can achieve different things with each one. And when I'm in the mood for more details and doing satire and stuff like that, I can do drawings because those can bring out small details, and then collage when I want to go big and just it brings out something really cool. And not a lot of people are seeing that in collage artists these days. Like, you can do hashtag collage artist on Instagram and you'll come up with like 300,000 tags. So it is pretty popular, but no one is really doing it in my style. So that's refreshing to hear.
So how do you even begin that? Like, do you have the finished product in mind? Like your tiger behind you? Did you map it out or draw it and then find the pieces that fit inside it?
Yeah, I always have like a vision in my head. Basically, I have my computer is in front of me. I do everything on the ground. I have my computer off to the side with the photograph on it. So it's like, it just fits my computer screen. Or sometimes I even work off of my cell phone, photograph on my cell phone. So I have the ability to maximize things in my head. And so I don't project anything onto the paper. Some people ask me if I project and then I trace over, and it's like, no, I didn't even use tracing books when I was a kid. I never even used coloring books. So I'm very like natural, raw artist, and everything I do from the ground up is just thousands of hours of hard work over the years. So basically I get my sketch down, my drawing. So you want to get the foundation down, and then you just start going through magazines and trying to stay semi-organized, because there's tons of different textures and colors. You're basically my brain is coming up with so many different things for each part of the tiger. So I'll try to stay organized and compile, suited textures together and colors. And usually my organization lasts for about a quarter of a way in. And then the rest of the art project, it just looks like chaos all around me. Like, things do not stay organized. I call it controlled chaos. So it's a really interesting process. And it's sometimes hard to explain. It's sometimes hard for me even to comprehend myself, even though I've spent thousands of hours doing it.
So like as an artist that travels around a lot, because you just did a show out in New York, right?
Yeah, I did the Tribeca First Thursday art walk, and that was the last art walk before they shut down the city.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was right on the fringe. I was thinking of not even going out to that, and then I sucked it up and just kind of held my breath for 3 days in New York City. Me and my little sister went there, and yeah, it was all right. There's definitely more people that could have showed up, but I hope our country gets back together soon. So
yeah, totally. So how do you like transfer all of your art pieces? Like for me with music, it's just like my guitar and I move in and out of venues, but I'm sure you have a lot of pieces that are around in different parts of the country too.
Yeah, I've showcased in a few different states, and with the collages, they're not framed. I just pin them up on each corner when I showcase them wherever they're at. So I just roll them up and then put them in a tube and send them. And it's a lot cheaper that way than if they were framed and I would ship them, which would cost several $100. Yeah. Shipping costs a lot for sure if it's like a frame piece.
So like what are you doing right now just outside of your art to just be like normal Whitney? Like what does your normal day look like? How are you keeping yourself sane?
Well, I catch up with a lot of my friends and family over the phone. I mean, just in general, I procrastinate. So I think is procrastination a hobby? Because that can kind of be enjoyable, just like kind of rebelling, especially as an entrepreneur, and you have to keep focused and you just like, it's like you really need a break. And so it's like, oh, I can give myself a break, and you have that empowerment in you, but then it's like an hour later, you totally forgot like why you were taking a break, and you're like, okay, Whitney, now you're just procrastinating. So yeah, I do a little bit of that. I run. I used to be an athlete, so I still like go out there and run. Of course, dating, that's another story. That's an interesting story. Yeah, I'm not, my life is not that, it's not as interesting as my art. It's like people who accomplish a lot and churn out a lot of work. It's like behind the scenes is actually kind of boring. I mean, I'm really satisfied with where I'm at, but like you ask me like what my hobbies are outside of art. And as an entrepreneur, your hobbies kind of converge with your entrepreneurial dreams and ambitions. And I find that art is my hobby and both my work. So they kind of converge.
You're doing what you love.
And what's that?
You're doing what you love.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, nothing too crazy. And I also think about my future. I'm not that much of a daredevil. Like I used to be a downhill ski racer and everything back in the day, but I have like no ambition to go out there and do high risk activities either. And even like going on a road trip, like for a hike outside the city, it's like my friends have to drag me out sometimes. And I love nature and everything. It's just, oh man, I need to drive like 40 miles to this destination. And I don't know. I just think of, I just want to like keep myself intact sometimes. Like, oh my gosh, there's someone at the door. Maybe I should just ignore that. Can we pause?
Yeah, sure. Let's pause. Okay.
That was my neighbor. He brought me cookies.
Hey, that's what's up.
I'll share one with you.
Yeah.
I'll share an emoji cookie with you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So anyways, I think it's just when you're on top of your game and you start thinking really critically about trying to conserve what you have and not make any stupid decisions in your life so that you can, so nothing is a setback, you don't want any setbacks because you're on a roll. So like you think ahead and you don't put yourself in stupid situations or just high risk activities. Like, yeah, that's kind of, I think that's why I kind of keep my life a little bit boring so I can not have anything like get in the way of my art, you know, not any stress. So
if you could give any advice to a younger Whitney or like a younger artist, just based on what you've learned so far, what advice would you give?
I think the coolest thing about getting older is that you don't care what anyone thinks. And I didn't believe it when I would get so worked up in my early 20s or let alone teenage years. You know, you get worked up about what other people think of you, or just even projecting, imagining what they're thinking of you. You don't even know for sure what it is. Like it drives you crazy. It consumes your time, space in your brain. And if I could tell myself when I was younger or someone else who's younger, just really people are thinking about themselves and they're not giving a lot of credence to what you're doing, and just keep going on your path and focusing on your thing, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the major things. And then, yeah, maybe I'll come up with something later in the interview. That's what comes to mind.
All right. Is there anything, I mean, I know you said that you try and minimize your risk, but is there anything that you have wanted to do, but you haven't given yourself the freedom to do it yet? Like for me, for example, I've been wanting to make like dance videos just because like I'm not like that great of a dancer, but I just want to jump into it and try. So is there anything that you can think of that you're like, oh man, I want to start doing this, something new, you know?
Yeah, I've kind of, I guess you could say, suppressed other parts of me that want to do that. Out of necessity, you know, just out of time in life. Time is finite. We only have so much of it. For instance, I had a fashion line for 5 years and I really wanted to go far with it. But, you know, between 2012 and 2016, that's when I had it. And by the end, when I quit to work on my fine artistry, by that time in 2016, everyone and their mother had a graphic tee line. And, you know, you really, the fashion industry it's carnivorous. It'll eat you up. You know, you need a team, you need money. And I was just by myself doing it. And I had to wear all these hats, you know, the designer, marketer. I still do that now as a fine artist. You know, I do my art, put on a different hat, and then I market it and step out into the limelight and show it. It's a different hat as well. But with fashion, it's just so low margin. And, you know, you just need to be very calculating with your funds, and it's very cutthroat. So I had to leave that aside and focus on my fine art. You know, just kind of like hone in on the skills that you're really good at. And that's what I've been doing for the past 4 or 5 years. And that's how I discovered, right when I put fashion aside, that's when I discovered my collage talent. You know, I had no idea. I had no ambition to pick up another art skill. But just one day I didn't have my paints with me and I wanted to get creative. And I remember somewhere I saw, like, you know, throughout my life, you know, people doing mosaic stuff that never really stuck with me. I just thought about that day and I just started collaging. And I probably used over 300 glue sticks in the past few years. Yeah, it's really funny. I wish I could just keep all them and show the accumulation. It's crazy how many glue sticks and paper I've been through.
Do you ever think about like getting a sponsor in those like tools?
Oh yeah, like Elmer's glue. They could sponsor me. Does Elmer's glue sponsor anyone?
They might.
That'd be really funny if you had like a race car driver and he had like Elmer's.
Yeah.
Yeah, not yet, but I should hit them up and show them my receipts and say, hey, look, I bought in 500 glue sticks from you. Let's make this happen. Yeah, man, it's stressful getting a hold of people. Like, I'm just trying to put my time and energy into getting my art out there, and that can be a stressful thing, because, you know, the saying, you get one yes and 10 no's. So that's kind of what you sign up for. But let's see. Yeah, I'm not sponsored by anything yet, but my dream is to get into one of the fashion magazines that I utilize the most for my collages. And my favorite magazine is W Magazine. Just the pages are amazing, like the colors. I just love W Magazine. And also it starts with my first name. So many little things. And then like they showcase these fashion pop cultural figures in there, which I have done several. So it's just, it would be this amazing story, you know, all intertwined together. Like there's this girl, she makes these fashion models out of our recycled magazines. And I don't know, I think it would be a really good storyline. So that's kind of my vision for where I want to be with my art. And that's like a media goal. And I'm just trying to escalate my exposure in New York City, because I think that's where I can really make that happen, you know, let it come to fruition.
Yeah.
If I'm in the big city. So yeah, I don't know what other art hobbies or things I really want to take up. I'm pretty like tunnel vision with this thing right now. Trying to get into these magazines, which I think will lead to other opportunities, because it's such a lonely endeavor at times, especially when you're single and you live alone. I mean, it's great 90% of the time, but 10% of the time, it's just, you get depressed and you're like, what is going on? Why am I doing this? But you have to remind yourself that, like you're given something special, and for, what is that phrase? To so much that is given, so much is expected in return, or something. Have you heard of that phrase?
Yeah.
I think I'm botching it, but that's what I have to remind myself. And I hope younger people remind themselves of that too, because it can get really daunting. But if you're not going through stress and valleys, you're never going to get to where you are, because everyone up there that you've seen that have achieved this self-actualization, famous people, whatever, like in any department of life, they've all been through a ton of valleys, and you have to go through those valleys alone. And most artists, it comes from such a deep place, and you have to be alone with yourself and the world to really appreciate where you're going.
Yeah. Do you feel like this quarantine period is helping you, or do you feel like it's hindering you from like your normal process?
I think sometimes I get a little bit existential, which is weird because I have a pretty deep relationship with God and whatnot, but sometimes I feel like, okay, the government's taking too much power, like overriding our constitutional rights right now, not even for a good reason. And that scares me. Like the confusion and the stupidity of it is scary. The stupidity scares me. It's not even for a good reason that they're doing this.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't really think of a pandemic, not to get in the politics. I don't know how you feel about this, but since you asked me and I'm the guest, I think if it's a pandemic, if it's killing less than 1% of the people that it's affecting, that's something that we need to get over. We need to get back to work. And, you know, we usually quarantine the sick and the vulnerable, not the healthy. Right. And that's what we should be doing right now. It's just, you know, all politicians, most of them are older. So it's like they're freaking out, you know, because they're in the vulnerable age. I get it. But yeah, if they want to conserve their country, they need to get back out there. And, you know, you can't compare this to the Spanish flu that infected like average age 30-year-olds. And that was a totally different scenario. And I also don't think you can compare. I see some people out there, they're like, oh, we're sacrificing staying inside. You know, our grandparents sacrificed going into World War II. So why shouldn't we, you know, we should make sacrifices for them. And it's like, I don't think you're looking at it the right way. They risked their lives to go out there and fight for this country. We are not risking our lives. We're actually making the economy even more detrimental by staying in, and we can easily sequester these older, more vulnerable people. So I don't think you can make that comparison. That's nothing compared. We're sitting in watching Netflix and eating potato chips on the couch. That's nothing compared to what our grandparents did. Yeah. So we need to stop that meme, John. I know you've seen it. You've seen something like it, like that argument.
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess my perspective is, I think it is right to, while we don't know how it spreads, and I've seen more than just older people get the virus. Like it seems to not really care where you're from or what age you are. So I think that's good. I think I don't know. It's just I'm concerned about the misinformation in terms of what exactly is going on, and I don't think we have like a very strong leadership core, in the sense that the information that's coming out has been so all over the place. Yeah, that's where my concern is. Like, I'm not sure exactly what to believe. Like, someone shared this video with me of this lady on TikTok, like, go outside, but don't go outside. And, you know, don't touch stuff, but touch everything.
I saw that one.
Yeah. That's how it feels. So I don't know.
Yeah, you should just change your podcast to Corona Edition, because we could talk all day about this.
Yeah, there's so many things.
Well, I will say, it reminds me, like, we definitely, we're being too coddled right now. Our immune systems are getting weaker, and you can't get stronger unless you come up against other things in life. Your immune system does not become stronger just sitting inside and protecting yourself. It actually becomes weaker, just like your muscles, just psychologically, physiologically, you know, just that's the system we live in. And I actually just bought a book off of a book site. It's called Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb. Okay. And it's about, have you heard of it?
I haven't, but
yeah, it's about how disorder causes order.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a nuance. You know, of course, I mean, it's not all disorder causes order, but it's just how, you know, when you take risks and you know, have these friction against one another, it makes the system stronger in different facets of society, different ways. So, yeah, I've read up about that. I've watched some things on it. So I'm really excited to actually read the book.
What's something that's brought you a lot of joy recently?
A lot of joy. The sun coming out in Seattle is really exciting. It's all the little things. My own health. The fact that I have cushion money right now. I've saved up money. Like I said, I don't go a lot of places. Like, so I have some money to live off of in this precarious situation of people not really being that apt to buy something that is of the highest discretionary spending, which is fine art. Of course, they can buy prints. You know, prints are cheap. But yeah, I can't really do much business right now. But what I'm really happy about is that I am in an industry where I have complete control over my craft, and I can still keep creating. Nothing is keeping me from keep creating. That's the one thing I have control control over in life. And even before the quarantine, I've felt constrained in different departments of my life, like not being able to find a man, not being able to start a family 5 years ago. I'm very traditional inside, and there's just some things I don't have control over in life. And I think the greatest thing is to keep on reminding myself that this is the one thing I have control over in life, and that's the skill that God wants to keep like revealing to myself. Like there's something right over each art project, like each art project you do, there's something that's revealing more about you, and you're onto something, and someone's going to recognize, not this next art project, but 3 art projects down the line. You need to keep on doing art, and you need to like keep riding this wave. And it's a mystery. You don't know how or why it's going to happen. You just have this something in you that propels you to do it. So I think that's what brings me joy. And just security brings me a lot of joy, because I grew up with parents that fought over money a lot. And so like, I've always wanted to be very secure with my money situation. So I'm glad I am in that department right now. I'm happy that my family's healthy. Thank God for that. It's just the small stuff.
Yeah. What does a perfect future look like to you? That's a good question.
I kind of forgot about the perfect future, because so many things have not been on my timeline. You know how life doesn't really pan out the way you think it is. But the perfect future would definitely be to get married and have a few kids and focus on that. That's always been a deep desire of mine. And to do art on the side, and I still want to escalate it. There's a time for everything, and I don't know when my art is going to become like main prominence. Like, is it going to be when I have a family and I actually have other priorities now, or is it going to be like in this season of my life when art is my main priority? I don't know. Some people, like, there's this analogy I have, and it's like everyone gets to start their fire in life. Some people are given sticks to light a fire. Not much. Some people are given kerosene, and they just light that fire at 16 years old, like Rihanna, her singing career. Everyone will start their fire. It's just different parts of life.
Yeah. I like
that.
So back to just keeping going. It might not be this one, but it might be the next 2, 3.
Yeah, exactly. And all it takes is one person. Like when I do famous people and I put them up on Instagram, I usually tag them, and like the odds are so slim. Like I don't expect them to recognize my art, because they have millions of people following them. But I have had a few people recognize it, which is awesome. I had Cindy Crawford recognize her portrait that I tagged her in, and she liked it and commented, which was really cool. Ken Griffey Jr., Kenny G, random people. Who else? Helena Christensen. She's one of my muses, and probably a few others. So yeah, I just need someone to like repost it on their page. That would make my world, but that hasn't quite happened yet.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
Do you prefer doing animals or people?
I like both in their own special way. People are more challenging, and I'm kind of I guess you could say a glutton for punishment. Like I love challenging myself. And I think it comes from being an athlete. When I was younger, I was always competitive. So when I don't have that physical competitiveness, like I don't have anything to prove to anyone anymore, that I think that translated over into my art brand, and constantly challenging myself and competing against myself and my own work from one artwork to the next. So that's how I keep myself on my toes, is by being my own worst critic. So to an extent, you need to be happy with what you do, but you also need to be critical of it. It's a fine line. So.
Well, Whitney, thank you.
Woo! Yo.
Thanks for being on the podcast.
For sure.
I'll share all your artwork on my page, and people will see it and hopefully get you a lot of follows.